So systemization is one of the three cornerstones of secrets that we teach within our coaching organization. It's systematize everything.
How does that systemization really guide you and lead you in helping people develop?
Without systems, you need extraordinary people to deliver ordinary results. With great systems, you can have ordinary people deliver extraordinary results. And the opposite of that is if you don't have great systems, you can have extraordinary people and you're not going to get much out of them, because you really need to have, what is the process by which we're going to run our organization? You do need extraordinary people to get extraordinary results, but when you combine it with really process-driven business, there's just almost no limit to where you can go, because you can fix things, you can measure things, you can evaluate things.
Before we jump into this episode, I'd love to invite you to be a part of the community where you can listen to more content to help you be a smarter, stronger, and better equipped, successful leader. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. I would love and appreciate your support. It's amazing to me to watch the community grow and read all of your comments each and every week. I can't wait to go on the journey with you. Thank you so much, and it means the world to me. Welcome to the Impact Driven Leader Podcast. This is your host, Tyler Dickerhoof. Today, I'm joined by Ron Carson. Ron is the founder of the Carson Group, managing $35 billion in assets and serving over 50,000 families. I think that second part is what's most meaningful to Ron, as I've learned. Ron has become an influential in activating and accelerating social and environmental change, pursuing his mission to do the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. He recently took a promotion out of the CEO role into the chairman role of the Carson Group. He and his wife, Jeannie, co-founded Dreamweaver Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to fulfilling end-of-life dreams for seniors with terminal illness. He also is friends with one of my previous guests, a person who I absolutely adore, Scott Harrison, in doing a lot with Charity Water. So, Ron, man, so good to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Tyler. Yeah, you know a lot of my friends between Chris and Scott.
You know what? This is amazing. And we talked earlier, the connection that brought us together was Chris Shembra, previous guest on the podcast. And this is what I find, and I think this will dive into it, is the connections we have are usually the character that we hold. And, when we talk about Scott and when we talk about Chris, their character, what they're there to do in the world speaks a lot about you. So let's take myself and the audience back. There was a shift at some point in your life. There was a shift to being, out of this growing up on a farm in, Northeast Nebraska, Northeast Ohio, but we have Ohio connections, where it was a hard lifestyle. A scarcity lifestyle where we're always broke. I don't know if you ever heard that, but I endured that growing up on a dairy farm, always broke. And at what point did that change in your professional career where you didn't have to worry about being broke and that fear and that scarcity and how it drove you?
Well, that's a big one, Tyler. Let me give you, I'm getting ready to give a talk in Park City. Do you know a group called Patel? By any chance? Patel? Yeah, Alex knows. It's anyways, I'm giving a 4-minute, they're having me lead the conference off, and it's a 4-minute riff on just that. So let me just dive into that, all right?
Use this as the platform to prepare.
To do it, yeah. 42 years ago, I vowed to not be poor. And the only kind of wealth I knew of was financial wealth. I didn't know spiritual wealth. I didn't know any kind of wealth. I just vowed never to be poor, because when I was 17, my parents went broke in 1982 farming. Interest rates were 21.5%. The one and only time I ever saw my dad cry was when he was telling me that you're going to have to find something else to do, Ronnie. I can't even support your sister and yourself. And that put me on this mission to never be that. And so I worked relentlessly. I worked incredible number of hours. And I remember telling myself, if I ever had $10,000, I could relax. And I remember getting 10 and I couldn't relax. And I thought, well, maybe it's 100. And I got 100 and I couldn't relax. And maybe it's 1 million, and then it's 10 million. And I had this realization, no matter what the number, was I want, because every January I would calculate my net worth. And I was excited to do it because most years it was a good year. But then once it got done, I looked at the number, I felt so empty and like, I thought we'd feel different than this. And I got into this, I don't know what to do or how to address it, but maybe it's just a really big number because it's this fear and scarcity, this house of cards, the thing's going to come crashing down no matter how successful I am. I just got to keep going. I got to push everybody around me to go hard. And you said something a minute ago. I wasn't an asshole because I wanted to be an asshole. I was an asshole because I was scared shitless. That if I didn't give it my all and everybody around me give it my all, I was going to go back and repeat what happened to the humiliation that happened to my family. And then about 9 years ago, my mom had just passed away. I hit a real low point in my life. I've been with my wife, Jeannie, for 42 years. So she's been with me through all of this since we were 17, right about the time we went broke. And she and I separated after my mom died. And from the outside looking in, people saw success. They saw someone must be loving their life. And the truth was I was embarrassed because I had a coaching business too. And I could coach people on how to be successful financially. But the real truth was I didn't know how to coach any other part of it. I didn't know how to show them how to have joy and have happiness in their life. And then when my mom died, I went on the search of a therapist. I'd done talk therapy and I'd done meditation and all this stuff. None of it really worked for me. I needed to be jolted to joy, which was happening with I did a psychedelic journey out in Topanga Canyon in LA with a doctor, an MD that was putting his life, his whole life on the line to do this work. And I came out of that because I had no spirituality. I came out of that first time. I was like, oh my gosh, I found Alice in Wonderland. The whole world is beautiful and it's animals and it's birds and there's something else out there. And now I've continued to do more of this work. I went from believing there was something more to knowing with total certainty. And that has flipped my life. I've been able to shift my operating system from fear and scarcity to love and abundance. But having done that, I can now see a mile away people that are like me, entrepreneurs, C-level people that don't know how to shift that operating system, even though they've got more wealth. And it does piss you off because you're like, I've got all this stuff I thought was going to make me happy, and it doesn't. Now I don't even know what to do or where to turn. What could make me happy? And it's truly the service of others. When you start serving, I remember clients would give money and do things. It's like, how could you find joy in that? It's just costing you money. It's taking away that thing that's supposed to make you happy. And today I stepped up to chairman. Carson has never been in a better position because I want to work on creating what I'm calling the ultimate human experience for people that are in that situation that want more. I want to connect communities around the world so we can change the world from the inside out. People are not happy with what we have today. The top-down approach is not working. No, they're all operating under this fear and scarcity. What would happen if we could change the model to take care of one another, to truly be equals? I have a gathering every fall. Last year, I had 324 people from all over the world come up to the ranch, and all the way from major sports, multi-billionaire sports franchise owners to people from Ecuador that were hunter-gatherers that had nothing. But they bring different energy. If we can combine people that have resources and influence with people that are very well grounded and understand what Pachamama does for us, wow, the power of being equals and forging this change together. That's what that could be. And there's a Reader's Digest version of how I got to where I'm at today.
Well, I admire your frankness and your ability to share. And one thing you point out there is that you can see it a mile away.
Yes.
One of the things that happened to me in life was realizing that my insecurity was the biggest thing that I was protecting myself from, and kind of this idea of understanding insecurity. And I see leaders and I see, a lot of popular figures today, and it's kind of like that idea that I can see this insecurity from a mile away because I've had to endure and embrace and kind of, much like you said, it wasn't this dramatic come to Jesus. It wasn't this, separation with my wife, but I looked around and realized that my relationships weren't there. I was a bulldozer going through life. My intensity was this bulldozer that just pushed. You read something about you growing up on the farm and your dad, having a hard time with employees because he was like, yeah, you come to work and you work all day. It's like, you don't take a lunch break. That was just what I learned, what I knew, and what I found out is that intensity drove people away. So looking back, if you were to reevaluate your work history and being able to see a model away, what were some of the hallmark moments of that, man, I'm not going to let what happened to my family farm happen to you?
Well, I mean, the hallmark moment was just um, especially in a small town. The town I grew up in is like 1,000 people. And, when something like that happens, you, even if they're not, you imagine everybody's talking about you. Everybody's talking about how big a loser your family is. And that was a moment when I saw my dad cry. I'm like, I'm never going to repeat this. I'm going to do something. I'm going to be successful. And a footnote to that, I went up to the library. This would have been within days of having this event with my dad. And I was reading Money Magazine, and Money Magazine listed the top 10 professions of the future. And right at the top of the list was becoming a CFP, a certified financial planner. And I thought, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. I had no idea that we were, we just came through a tremendous bear market. There was a thing on, I think it was Newsweek magazine that said the bear with a sword through it said the bull is dead, like the markets are dead. And I was oblivious to all of that because I really felt like if my parents had some financial help, they probably wouldn't have gotten over levered the way they did, and they could have been okay. And I made the decision, to be in this business. I was at Napa Valley at the wine auction. It's a big fundraiser every year, and I'm at a pre-party. And this lady says, "Where are you from, Nebraska? What do you do?" And I told her, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I was at Money Magazine during that time. This was in 1982. I wrote that article." You talk about the butterfly effect and wild synchronicity of things lining. I said, "Well, then I owe you my career." And I couldn't have picked, again, I was an unconscious incompetent. I didn't know what I was doing, but I didn't know I didn't know. And I just happened to pick the right profession at the right time. And I was good at motivating people. The one thing that I brought to financial services was, I can motivate people. I can help people build businesses. And now my focus is taking some of these same leaders and converting them into conscious capitalists, motivating them around shifting this operating system so we can have this meaningful change. And here's the beautiful part about conscious capitalism. Milton Friedman wrote about capitalism in the 70s, and he said the sole focus of a business is to maximize profit. And that is not true. Capitalism is the greatest economic system ever that's lifted humanity's standard of living around the world. And if you go back and look at the history of it, and there's a great movement, there's a great book out there called Conscious Capitalism by John Mackey, who started Whole Foods, and Raj Sasosa, who was a co-author of that. And they actually have a group and a movement around this today. But when you have all the constituents doing well and taking care of one another, your business does really well. It doesn't even come at a tax. But doing the right business where you have the internal stakeholders you serve and the clients you serve and the communities we serve and the planet that we serve. And profit is an equal constituent, but it's no bigger or less than the rest. And when they work together in harmony, then all of a sudden we can then shift our operating system too, because it's not me against somebody, it's me with someone. It's not me against my community, it's me with my community. It's not me against my stakeholders, it's me with my stakeholders. And that shift in mindset, I think, is what our world needs today more than it's ever needed it, to say it's not me or you, it's me and you.
So those leaders that you're coaching, that you have the opportunity to sit beside and say, hey, I've had this great transformation and revelation. Where are they like, I don't know, Ron, that's not for me. I can't do that. That's like, where is the internal pushback for them?
I've learned, Tyler, that everybody's at a different spot. And so I'm launching a new business this fall that I've been working on for some time. I haven't even named it yet. We've been working with an outside firm to do this. But imagine a way that there's lots of easy inroads. It may be as simple as, I want to train for a push trip. I want to go climb Everest. We'll do that for you. I want to improve my nutrition and eat organically. Food is a medicine. We can do that for you. I want to have a family retreat and develop a family constitution, which is different than a will. Like, how does this drive wealth for many generations to come? We can do that, and we can host your organization to do that. Listen, I want to do a legal psychedelic retreat in a place that is legal. So it could be Mexico, it could be Panama, it could be different parts of the world. Actually, you can, and even here in the U.S., it's going to be changing. You already know that there's psychedelics that are been proven with both the vets and others to be, incredibly beneficial. And so it might be breath work, it might be meditation, it might be as simple as I just want to go mountain biking, for a day, so making it easy for people to say yes, to opt into this community. And we're working on, making it such a low initial investment for people to say, hey, I want to be a part of this. And we're going to give them credit for whatever, like we're looking at maybe like $100 a month to start on the low end, but that'll be a credit towards all the services that we're going to provide. And through this, I want to build these communities of communities for change. I think about Scott Harrison. Think about this. Charity water. And think how many people every day are dying because of dirty water. They're dying because we don't have food. Yet we've got plenty of food and water, both on the planet. We just don't have the right place. And we don't have the political care for other humans to say we're gonna take care of each other. And this comes back to, I believe, the only reason you would hoard resources is out of fear and scarcity. If you truly believe, listen, no matter what I give, it'll come back in abundance, it'll come back in love, then we can all of a sudden reach out and we can start giving of ourselves in all kinds of energy to take care of these people. There's no reason on the planet today that we should have all these people dying from something that we have plenty of resources for.
So again, people that would be clients of this business, the people that you've talked to that have maybe you've gotten them excited about, this is what we're bringing, this is what I want to do for you.
Yes.
Why do you think they're stuck where they are? Or what held you where you were before you had the opportunity to transform? Yeah, I mean, we talk about the fear and scarcity, but why are they holding on to that when you're talking to them?
Many times we don't know. This is the truth is we don't know. When I take people through their initial this process of call it a health retreat and a healing retreat, is stuff will come up that's being holding. This came up for me. Listen, I didn't even know I was sexually abused when I was 6 years old, but I was. And when I remember Jeannie and I used to watch these shows, and someone would say, well, I can't remember, I can't recall. We're like, bullshit. There's no way that you could ever forget anything. But yet I've had it happen to me. I had like when people open up Pandora's box and people say, well, I don't know if I want to deal with that. Listen, you're dealing with it, whether you consciously acknowledge it or not. These are ingredients of who you are, and they do have an impact. So like this, sexual abuse, being away from, it was a family member that babysat me. And so how did that manifest itself? Well, I wet the bed till I was 10 years old. My psychologist thought that was somehow related to that. I couldn't stand to have my mom out of my sight because there was a fear, in there. So I talk about traumas that we have that are both known and unknown. And what I've learned, people can come in and say, I've had the perfect no trauma life. And then all kinds of stuff comes up for them. Or maybe they've had what they call, just like I thought financial wealth was the only kind of wealth. They had the perfect kind of life. But in fact, they have this aha moment because you're able to put your ego asleep and really just essentially feel the essence of your soul. And once you do that, you really start to figure out what your true purpose is in life versus all of the stuff that we pile on. You talked about insecurities, going hard. Let's be an asshole so people really don't get to know us. That's our default. It's soon as we're a little uncomfortable, we all push people away. What if we leaned into that? We honored that. We felt that. It's like, what is showing up for me? And had a way of processing that, but then inviting people to be the right kind of people. You're going to attract the right kind of people into your life. What I've learned is once you shift, and I coach people on this all the time, be selfish, be selfless. Moms are the toughest to really practice this. They understand it, but they can't do it. It's like, take that time for yourself, get a massage, take care, meditate, have your mental wellness, because you have unlimited energy to give it away. So often people are depleted. They give this energy away and they have no way of replacing it because they're not healthy. So once we clear out what's really holding us back, then we've got a clear path of what our purpose is, what our highest and best use of our life is. And when that becomes clear, watch out, because you all of a sudden it becomes almost a frictionless life. You can go through it and things just start happening in harmony. I never would have believed this before, but I'm a living example really over the last, going on 10 years that this has played out for me. The more I quit pushing, the more I spent time slowing down, the more great things happened in my life and around those that are in my life.
You share a lot of elements that, I've had to grow through myself. And the interesting part is, as you share it and as I think about it, there's a lot of people that have this idea. Unless you're that driven person, whatever you accomplish in life isn't that meaningful. And so they could sit here and say, well, okay, Ron, yeah, you had all that, but what if you had that mentality, would you have gotten the results that you've gotten? I interviewed someone on a podcast and they're like, well, if me not thinking about those things makes me wrong, I'm okay being wrong. And it's just this idea of that, you know what, life is so much bigger than commas in a bank account or accomplishments. That's my feeling, but I'd love you to kind of go through that yourself, kind of you pick that apart.
I think it's true, Tyler, because many around me have said, yeah, but you wouldn't be where you're at today without having gone through that. And that's why I'm able to say, man, I embrace every single ingredient that happened to me. I don't have any animosity that I hold towards a single person in my life. I just don't. I used to carry a lot of this stuff. And let's say that I had this really beautiful spiritual upbringing, would I have the wealth I have today? Probably not. But I'm not sure that it would have mattered. I mean, because ultimately, what's the goal of life? It's to have joy and happiness in your life. So if you're finding that joy and happiness and you have absolutely no physical possession, because I used to hear about these monks that meditate and they had a vow of poverty and nothing. It's like, man, that would be boring. And now when I get into that mental state, I'm like, oh my God, these guys they weren't even here. They were living in another dimension, energetically, and they're having a great life. So the answer is, I don't begrudge any of what happened in my life that gave me maybe the ingredients I am today, but I do agree on that element of it. Without that drive, I wouldn't accomplish. But with that now becomes a responsibility, because I'm not, my kids are going to get about 5% of our estate. The rest is going to our charitable foundation. So now I've got the responsibility. I like having the wealth, but I like having, the purpose. The purpose isn't profit. It's profit for purpose today. And that's a shift to say, now that we've got these resources, let's do something really significant. And so the healing ranch that we have is going into a conservation easement. So it'll stay like that forever. We're going to have funding around, helping people live a more fulfilling life, getting to know themselves and shifting that operating system. And I'm grateful now that I did have those periods of my life that I didn't really have a lot of joy and happiness, because now I get to feel the equal and opposite. When I coach people, it's like the hard pain and the hard things you're going through today will be felt by the equal and opposite elation that you're able to feel on the other side. I feel like if you have a life that's not very volatile, you don't get very down, but you don't get very up, you probably can only feel to the degree you felt down. And so let's embrace and honor these wild swings we've had in our life, but not be afraid of them, but not recognize them or call them, label them as bad, but it's just a part of life. And how do we do that?
As you share that, I'm thinking about my own experiences and those that I've listened to of others that have been guests. And I just think those trials make us who we are. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's not measurable by what you accomplish career-wise. It's measurable about the through the impact that that experience has on others. And, that's what I'm hearing from you is like recounting the experiences that got you to where you're at. And then also understanding, appreciating the transformation has nothing to do with a quantifiable goal, but it's like, how much is that going to impact others? Either that you can go through a similar journey, or that maybe you don't have to go through those extremely painful, difficult ones, that you can learn the lesson by your experience, or another guide that said, hey, let me share you, there's more to this life other than pursuing fame, pursuing wealth. And when you do that, you can actually have both of them, and it's impactful.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. We have this thing called I wrote a book called Sustainable Edge, and the whole idea behind it is people are like, you have to choose one or the other. It's actually opposite. The sustainable edge is, balance and happiness leads to growth in your business, and growth then affords you the ability to take time to really work on yourself. So it can be a virtuous, really positive cycle, or it can be a negative cycle if you don't have the other elements in there. So you can't have it all. If you take the pressure off and actually are more intentional about everything that you do in your life, it's not the volume of what you do, but it's what you do and how you do it and how it makes you feel, the energy that creates within your soul.
If I think about what I've read about you, what I've learned about you, and going back to your early financial planning career and how you set out to serve clients, I believe the stuff that you're talking about now was there early on. I've heard you talk about have a purpose, go do things for people that just good things for people, and have this desire to serve. I believe that's what grew your business, but ultimately you realize that was the fulfillment, not the result. The process actually was what it's all about. So help the audience understand kind of that blueprint that you've had through your career, because obviously it's brought results, but now I think you're understanding why that brought so many results.
Yeah, the blueprint of my career, some of the earlier things that I talked about: emotional reciprocity, doing really nice things for people that didn't expect it without worrying about how you're going to get compensated for it. There's this movie called Brewster's Billions. Did you ever see it? He was going to inherit money, but he had to give so much away. The more he gave away, the more it came back. And this is the crazy thing about life, is the universe does keep score. And when you just do for others, the wealth is in the actual action and the impact that you get to have. And truly, givers gain. When you give, you are the biggest recipient, even more so than the person receiving it. It was a hard concept for a lot of people to really wrap their mind around. But once you feel it and experience it, you're like, wow, that was really good. But to separate that, you can have those moments and still not be happy. Because if you're still operating under this fear and scarcity and insecurities, even though you have moments where it happens, but if that's the foundation of what you're operating, you're always going to feel like it's a house of cards getting ready to come crashing down. So it's really like stripping yourself down to the bones. Use a construction metaphor here, and then rebuilding it with all the great materials, the people, the relationships, the way you want to live your life. One of the things we teach in our blueprinting program, and Jeannie and I did this back when we were miserable, because you do make everybody else miserable around you when you're miserable, is we scoped out what our perfect year looked like. Like, what would we do and where would we live? And we are pretty close to living that today with a few nuanced, changes. But had I not done the work, we could still be living the perfect year and being miserable. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have that internal shift in your operating system, and really done the work on yourself, it's really hard to live, to be the person you were meant to be, to live the kind of energy and joy you were meant to live. Our CEO, Burt White, I've known him for, he was at one of our competitors for 14 years, and he's been here now a little over 2 years. And he said, one thing I've learned about you ever since I've really gotten to know you, because we knew each other professionally, but he's gotten to know me personally, is you protect your happiness at really all costs. And I do. It's being selfish to be selfless, because when I'm feeling good, I've got the unlimited almost ability to people within my community and network to pass that on to them.
Yeah. You can't pour from an empty cup. And, if you pour out dirt, if you've ever seen the I don't know, you've seen the reel where they take like a cup of Coca-Cola and you pour water into it. And then eventually, it spills out where it becomes this clear water, because that's what pushes everything out. Now, that's what I hear from you, is that when you have that happiness, that joy, that abundance and love, and accept it and honor it, it pushes away that fear and scarcity. And then you realize, what am I fearful for? Like, why am I acting in that way? One of the things that I walk through with a lot of people in the impact-driven leader is, recognizing those fears and insecurities, because as you said, they're there. Accept them and understand them doesn't mean you have to wallow in it. But once you accept it and understand it, then you can move past it. And
Yes.
that's a little bit what I heard from you in kind of building this blueprint.
And Tyler, on top of that, like the awareness is 100% of the solution here, because you're never not going to not have any of it. The truth is that just because you're aware of it doesn't mean it'll go away. So the trick is, you said it, feel it, let it in, feel it, honor it, and just, hey, this is a normal part of being human. And it's okay to feel this way, because I get to feel, like I said earlier, the opposite and equal on the other side.
Yeah. So then what about, you talk about passions as well. You talk about, having this greater desire for what is meaningful to you. This is maybe an opportunity to talk about Nebraska football that's on the upswing. We've gotten past the Scott Frost years, where I don't want to dig into that, because I think it would be too painful for everyone, especially if you're a Cornhusker fan. But Matt rolls on an uptick. So we'll talk about your passions.
Oh my God. Yeah. Matt is he's a brother. He's an awesome, awesome guy. My passions are like Nebraska athletics, period. Really, Nebraska, the state. All the speaking I would do, Tyler, I would tell people that Nebraska is the center of the universe. And I'm putting out a...
all right. But you're a Buckeye. All right. We got to say that you're a Buckeye first, and a Buckeye is the heart of it all. Yeah. And so we'll accept that. You can be a transplant. I'm a transplant Washingtonian.
So I was born in Lima. I moved to Nebraska when I was 9. So I always tell people birthright is first. But then I went to play for Nebraska. So once you go to the university, then all of a sudden, the only time I go root for the Buckeyes when they're playing Nebraska.
Okay. All right. So okay, that's fair. It's fair.
It's been good to be a Buckeye fan during this drought, let me tell you.
I was painfully at the last time that Nebraska beat Ohio State. I was there at Memorial Stadium. And that was a painful experience when Terrell Pryor sprained his ankle and the downpour. And
I was there that night.
Let's go on to your passions other than...
And we were down 28-7. And we came back and won this game.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for reliving that painful moment. Thank you very much.
Honestly, that's a great run. But so talking about passions, Nebraska is a passion of ours. Ag is a passion. So one of my big projects is to convert we were all told this big lie, and monocropping is raping our soils. And there's 2 good documentaries I'd ask everybody to watch: Kiss the Ground and Common Ground. Common Ground just came out April 22nd. Kiss the Ground came out about a decade ago. And this is a real push I've got within Nebraska, because we can, 1, sequester carbon from the atmosphere. It's the only way we can get there. 2, we can produce better product for humans to consume and get rid of glyphosate and all this shit that's, causing cancer, and nitrates in water, and it's causing all kinds of people health problems. So Nebraska is a big piece. I think we can be the epicenter, Nebraska and the Midwest, of really starting this conversion. The other passion is mental wellness. My mom was manic depressive. I just wish I would have had the tools that I have today to help her, and the clean water and food, for people that don't have it, because we have more than enough, be able to provide. So those are, and then my family, of course, and my grandchildren are right at the top of the list for passions.
So we'll transition into, we talk about passions. What about this idea of gaining a system within the blueprint? How has that served and helped you, especially embracing doing kindness things for people, being driven by that, but also this idea of passions? How does systemization really kind of bring all of that together?
Yeah, systemization is the key for really everything. I mean, there's a book, Michael Gerber wrote it back in the day. It was
Yeah,
called
it's a great
E-Myth,
book.
a great book. And it catapulted my business into a whole other level. And there's a quote in there, and he said, great system without systems, you need extraordinary people to deliver ordinary results. With great systems, you can have ordinary people deliver extraordinary results. And the opposite of that is if you don't have great systems, you can have extraordinary people and you're not going to get much out of them because you really need to have, what is a process by which we're going to run our organization? And so Gerber was wrong on the last piece, because you do need extraordinary people to get extraordinary results. But when you combine them with really process driven business, there's just almost no limit to where you can go because you can fix things, you can measure things, you can evaluate things. And so we at Carson, we systematize every little thing you can, from how we prospect, how we take care of a client, how we open the office, how we close the office. And the other nice thing about that is if someone were sick or quits, you've got a written process for someone to step in and actually complete that task. So systemization is one of the three cornerstones of secrets that we teach within our coaching organization, is systematize everything.
How does systemization lead into development? And one of the things I've heard you talk about is, and I see this, that we're in a glut of not having people because of the lack of development, the lack of investing in people. How does that systemization really guide you and lead you in helping people develop?
So I'm a big believer in people setting goals, and I have a little smacks specific, measurable, achievable, compatible goals. And I've done this my entire life. I continue to do it to this day. And I ask people to go. I'll back up to your question. I ask people to go 20 years out, write their age, the age of their kids, maybe their grandkids, and give them some frame of reference of how old you're going to be and how old your spouse going to be. And then I want you to list some goals that are personal, that are professional, and that are family. And those are the three buckets for myself. And I wanted to be a balance. And then I moved up to 15 years. I did the same thing. Then 10, then 5, then 3, then 1. And here's what I promise everybody that goes through this process. You will dramatically overestimate what you get done in the short run, but dramatically underestimate what you can get done in a 10-year period of time. And I want people to push. The litmus test is believe there's a 50-50 chance you can accomplish this goal. And if you believe that in your heart, you'll accomplish about 80% of your goals over time. So back to the systemization, the 1-year goal, I don't do it today because I quit doing it a year ago because I felt like I was a slave to it. But every single night before I go to bed, I would list these 6 most important things I had to get done in order of priority for the next day. And when I started my day, I didn't go to number 2 until I got number 1 done, unless I took it as far as I could. I would highlight it. The other thing I would do is each one of those 6 most, they couldn't be busy items because I couldn't make it to the 6 most. They had to all track to one of my goals. So if you looked at your 1-year goals, like is this 6 most tracked to one of my goals? If not, it doesn't belong on there. Put it in a miscellaneous list of stuff that you've got to get done. But this is not the 6 most important things you got to get done for the day. And then I would have the vital one for the week. And the vital one was like, this is something I may be a little behind on with one of my goals I really need to focus on. And so that was a system that increased my productivity by multiples. And I teach it, and we teach it today within our coaching program. You want to jumpstart your life. You want to get focused on doing the most productive thing at every given moment, because you get stuck surfing and scrolling and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden the weekend's gone and the evening's gone and all this time is gone. But and I write it on a yellow notepad, and I take a Sharpie and go through it as I get done with it, you will accomplish way, way more than you ever thought. The most incredible time management system out there is the 6 most vital one.
So I've actually heard of a training very similar to that from Darren Hardy. So Darren Hardy, the compound effect, has something very similar. I mean, that is wildly effective at focusing you. And I think it comes back to when we focus, this is my belief. is when we keep that focus and that daily commitment to it, it's much harder to get off track. We get off track when we start following, the wrong path because we're not sure where we're going to go. We don't know, I look at that to say, I don't know how many steps it's going to take to get there, but if I'm on the right path, I will get there. And I think that's kind of what I got from, what you shared is if we look at this development, we look at this growth, we look at that change over time. If I'm devoted to the steps I'm taking, I'll get there.
You will. And, you said Hardy. The originator of that idea was Andrew Carnegie. So this goes back. Yeah, this goes way back. And it's been time tested. Another book that I would recommend, by the way, in this genre of thinking is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And Outwitting the Devil. Have you read Outwitting the Devil?
Okay, I have not.
Yeah,
Outwitting the Devil.
Napoleon Hill. It's an older book than Think and Grow Rich, and you'll understand when you read it why the foundation released it well after he died. But it's a lot of stuff we're dealing with in society today. He was such a visionary well beyond his time.
Oh, one of the things you bring up those two authors or, bring up those two individuals. I love going back and reading those books almost once a year. And it's funny to me, the correlation to what they experienced in that time period. It was just after the Depression and changes in technology and changes in society and how much it correlates to what we're going through today. When Napoleon Hill wrote about the change from, newspaper into radio and people were freaking out. And you look at the advent of AI and it's like, all right, how are we going to embrace this? I mean, someone that's involved in agriculture, AI is not a surprise. AI has been a part of agriculture for the last 30 years. It's commonplace. And yet we look now at so many industries that are like, oh my goodness, this is going to disrupt everything. Yeah, embrace it.
Well, I do think everything's going to be disrupted. At a level we've never seen or appreciate. I was in Mexico at a conference called the Yearn, and there was a lady, by the way, I'll share this with you. It was fascinating. She's an AI guru. And I said, tell me something I don't know about AI. And she goes, okay. She said a year ago, we could look out and predict, we felt with a high degree of confidence, how AI was going to impact industries. Today, that was just a year ago. We could look out 2 years. Today, we can look out 5 months. In 1 year, it went from 2 years to 5 months. She goes, I don't think anybody, even me that lives in this every single day, can appreciate the kind of impact. And some people are scared, rightly so. I'm on the idea, I'm really excited about it. We're not going to stop innovation ever, on our planet. Hopefully we don't kill ourselves in the process. But if we do, what's that really mean?
Well, I think it comes back to what you said earlier. It's we look at it with fear and scarcity. Of course, be afraid. But if you look at it with love and abundance and what does this create, and it's going to be different things. It's understanding that, the I guess careers, the pathways that we've had the last 10 years are probably going to alter tremendously. And it might go back to more agrarian. It might go back to more hands-on because we've replaced a lot of those technical, whether it's, data analyst or computer science, we've replaced those with now a technology that can handle it. But you know what? It's really hard to feed cows. It's really hard to, do those things that our world desperately needs. And so we need to go back to that and say, hey, those are worthwhile pursuits instead of thinking they're worthless. And I think that's where we're going to see this great change in our society is construction, the trades, the different things that aren't so easily automated. Now we start to see, oh man, they're tremendous value. And I would go back to this. I can't see out the windows. Maybe I have some steers walking around behind you. Man, it's so grounding to be in the world. Like when I talk about, kind of taking care of the earth, whether it's taking care of animals, taking care of plants, doing those things, man, it can be so grounding because you get away from the computer screen. You get away from so much of the hustle and it starts to give you clarity and realize what's really important in life.
Yes. Amen. Amen. And I'm a big believer AI is going to improve everybody's standard of living exponentially. I think that's the power that and that's coming from love and abundance mindset. I'd like for you guys to go take a look at this, www.imagineor.com. Just the word imagine or, IMAGINEOR, one word.com. And the idea is we can have the world we have, or we have an alternative. And you guys are invited to come. It will be, we're getting close to being full because we're capping it at 350 people. But if you want to come to Nebraska and really experience something, of all the people there last year, I had at least 24 people say it was the most profound thing they've ever done in their life. And these are people that had enormous amounts of financial wealth, but now they found that grounding, just what you're talking about, being in nature, connecting with people that didn't have an agenda, but just connecting through connecting, just being and being equals. Yes, Native Americans. We're going to have at least a dozen Native American tribes from around the world there representing, and lots of talk, and lots of great music. We have Perenge is like one of our headliners, Deodova from Australia. That's like incredible music. And I think we have 11 different acts that will be playing this year. And you just come, you make a donation, which is also tax deductible, and then it's your food, lodging, everything. It's really something to come in and experience. This is going back to like the way the Native Americans knew how we needed to live to survive long term. It's one world family. Everything is so interconnected. And that's what they know. And their big push is, bringing biodiversity back and bringing back practices that we know, are good for the planet and good for everything. Come back to this they believe in conscious capitalism. They just didn't brand it that or label it that. But this is it. And guys, I'm getting down to like 1 minute and I've got to hop into another meeting.
Ron, thank you so much for your time. Obviously, you shared imagineor.com. Where else can people learn about you and what you're passionate about today?
Follow me on LinkedIn. I put like a 2 to 3 minute video out once a week, whatever on my mind. And then, things that I'm doing, places I'm going. LinkedIn is the only social media platform that I'm even on. If you see Twitter, whatever, someone else doing it for me. But LinkedIn, you send me a message. I read all my own messages. I do all my own postings on there.
Well, Ron, thank you so much for your time. And thank you to all of our viewers and listeners. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. And then by rating and reviewing each episode, you can help more people discover impactful leaders like Ron. Until next time, choose to lead with impact.